Alright guys, this is video number 5. This is the last video, and we're going to talk about Jack White. He's one of the headliners of Music Midtown. When I first read the Music Midtown lineup, I was kind of confused because Jack White was number 2 on the list. And usually they'll have like the big names at the top and then it goes down as the lesser known artists are appeared. And some of the people that we've talked about so far, Lana, Iggy, Bastille, Fitz and the Tantrums, they're like down somewhere in the middle, close to the top, but still somewhere in the middle. And like the first act was Eminem, which obviously he is going to be the main attraction, and everybody that's at Music Midtown will probably be at the Eminem show. Well, Jack White was number 2, and I didn't know why because I'd never heard of him before. But apparently he's a pretty big deal, so we'll talk about him for a second. I really like him now that I've listened to him and given him a chance, and doing the research for this and finding out more about him, he seems pretty interesting. So, he was born John Anthony Gillis in 1975 in Detroit. He was the youngest of 10 children in a Catholic family. He can play the guitar, the drums, the keyboards, the mandolin, and the bass guitar. And in an interview with 60 Minutes back in 2005, he talked about how his life could be a little bit different because he was about to go to the missionary to become a priest. He said, seminary, not missionary. He said, I got accepted to a seminary in Wisconsin and I was going to become a priest, but at the last second I thought, I'll just go to public school. I had just gotten a new amplifier in my bedroom and I didn't think I was allowed to take it with me. So that's why he is now who he is instead of Father Jack White. As an artist, he's collaborated with Beck, the Rolling Stones, and Bob Dylan, all well-known rock acts, as well as he is. But he's also collaborated with Alicia Keys, and he produced a 2004 album for Loretta Lynn, the country icon. So that's kind of cool that he's working all the different genres. He started out, he formed the White Stripes. I know a lot of y'all have heard of the White Stripes. That's him. It was him and his wife Meg, who he was married to from 1996 to 2000. They are the White Stripes. Y'all probably know a lot about them. They rose to prominence in the early 2000s. They're known for their big song, Seven Nation Army, which as soon as I heard it, I was like, oh, I've heard this before. So if you haven't heard of the White Stripes, look up Seven Nation Army, and I'm sure you'll be like, oh, I've heard that song before. Kyle was right. Icky Thump, which was their last CD, was a big hit back in like 2007, so y'all might remember seeing all of that. Their tours did very well in the United States and Canada and in the UK, and they won 3 Grammy Awards for their last 3 albums for Best Alternative Album every year, so that's kind of cool. On February 2nd of 2011, the duo announced officially that they had stopped recording and promoting and performing as the White Stripes. They didn't deny any artistic differences, or they did. That specifically denied artistic differences and health issues. They said that they were dissolving for a myriad of reasons, mostly to preserve what is beautiful and special about the band that was the White Stripes. So after a year off and a year of not being the White Stripes, not touring, Jack released his debut solo album, Blunderbuss, in 2012. The album was a critical success. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. The album and its singles landed him 5 Grammy nominations in 2013. Album of the Year, Rock Album of the Year, Rock Song of the Year, Rock Performance, Rock Music Video. He was also nominated for International Male Solo Artist at the 2013 Brit Awards, which is the equivalent of the Grammys over in the UK. So it was a worldwide success. It did great here, it did great in England, it did great in Canada. He toured extensively for it. He's apparently he's a very good performer. Check back with me in September and I'll talk about that, see if he is or not. Lazaro, that's his second debut album. It was released about 2 weeks ago. It's right on track to follow the success of Blunderbuss. It debuted at number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. It's gotten favorable reviews from critics. And the vinyl LP, this is kind of cool, because record players are making a comeback. So the vinyl LP sold 40,000 copies in its first week. And that beat a record that had previously been set in 1994 by Pearl Jam. So that's kind of cool to have an album 20 years later come and break that record. So that's Jack White. He'll be at Music Midtown in Atlanta in September. So check him out. And I am done.